So welcome to another Impact Sessions podcast with me, Nick Bramley. I'm delighted this week to have a long-term client and someone who I really enjoy working with, Amanda Gardiner. She's the Managing Director of a company called Durham Lifting, who bizarrely are based in Middlesbrough, but we'll cover that. And Amanda works in a very heavy engineering and lifting business, and we're going to discuss what's the state of heavy industry in the north and how are things in 2021. So without further ado, welcome, Amanda.
Thank you. How are you, Nick?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. Delighted to have you on. I know we've worked together a number of times, and the slight worry for our guests, our listeners, is, boy, can we talk? So we might have to, we might have to keep this.
How very dare you?
We might have to keep this, sort of on some kind of structure. But I'm intrigued, really. Every time I work with you, and you've got a really sort of powerful, strong business in sort of lifting and heavy engineering and that kind of thing. I'm intrigued because I'm from the northeast. You're obviously from the northeast as well, as anyone can tell from our accents. All the traditional shipbuilding and heavy industries seem to have long gone, but I just like to explore what the landscape looks like now, really, and what's your view on it. So if we can start with that, I guess I'd ask you to describe how you see the current heavy industry landscape, particularly in the north of England, really, where you're very strong. How does it look?
It looks fine. Obviously, everybody's had a very difficult 12 months, but they all seem to be fighting through it well. There's a lot of work locally. There's some new projects on the horizon. The SSI site is obviously going to bring work to the area. You say that shipbuilding has been on the decline, obviously, for a long, long time. But there is news afoot that Sunderland are going to start building ships again. So there are lots and lots of positive vibes at the present moment in time. Let's hope that we can bring all these to fruition, and then hopefully we've all got successful future.
Well, that's great news about Sunderland, by the way. And I think the COVID crisis has made people look at globalisation might not necessarily be a good thing. So, if you want to build locally, you're probably going to have to build a supply chain locally, because we found out during COVID that supplies were struggling, from the Far East or other places. So that's absolutely fantastic news. And there's a lot of investment in things like offshore, isn't there? Wind and renewable energy and stuff. So it sounds positive then, Amanda.
Yes, I think it's very positive for the Northeast. We're certainly the hub of industry. There's a lot going on. Yes, you're correct in your offshore wind. There's always been a massive oil and gas concentration in the Northeast. There are some, fantastic fabricators doing some wonderful projects. So, yeah, I'm very positive at the present moment in time.
Excellent. Good to hear. And I think we should be celebrating that positivity. The world's full of doom and gloom, isn't it? So, sometimes it's worth expanding on that. So I tell you what, would you like to share with the audience exactly what Durham Lifting does and what it's about, and how do you deliver your products and services to your customers? Tell us a bit about Durham Lifting.
Yeah, so Durham Lifting have been in business since 1996. So we're just entering our 25th birthday celebration year. So we're quite proud of that. Everything that we do derives from the engineering sector. We support the heavy lifting industry with our own range of products, a manufactured range of products and services, predominantly based around lifting and testing in line with Lawler, Pure and British standards.
And there's a massive market for that, obviously, given that there's a lot of stuff gets moved around, isn't there? And you've got some very heavy equipment around on the site, haven't you?
Yeah, we have some very, very heavy equipment on the site. We're working regularly up to thousands of tons. It just seems to be the norm to us guys. We're just so used to it over the years.
Good stuff. Well, for those who don't know where you're based, you're in a very historic test house environment in Middlesbrough. You can see the Transporter Bridge from where you are, I guess, and you can see my second home, the Riverside Stadium, from the office. What's the story with the test house? It's quite a spooky place, but I've been in late on an evening sometimes. It looks like it's got a lot of history. What's the story with the test house that you?
No, No, it doesn't. Mary only comes out on a night. She's fine. So the Britannia Test House was built in 1926. It was built originally by Dorman Long to test the components for the Sydney Harbour Bridge in Australia.
Wow.
Yeah, and it also the Tyne Bridge was built and the structural components were tested in Teesside too, in the Britannia Test House.
Excellent.
So it's very, very historic.
Excellent. And a bit spooky in the dark, but there you go. We'll give that we'll agree to do. I do know that you've said that you've been there late and you've been the only one in occasionally, and it doesn't bother you at all, does it?
No, no, no. There is a part of the building that I have never actually been in, though, having owned it for 25 years. There's still a section that I've never ventured into.
Yeah, that probably says it all. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Fantastic.
We mentioned a few sectors. We talked about oil and gas. We talked about offshore and renewable energy and stuff. Which are the sectors that you're currently actively involved in and feel as though there's the opportunity for you at Durham Lifting to expand into them? What's it looking like in terms of your sort of market approach, really?
We have a lot of sectors that we work in, and I think that adds to the variety of the business, and it definitely helps us support and grow. We work heavily in oil and gas and have always worked heavily in oil and gas. And obviously that's on the decline, as we all know. So now we've looked at offshore wind for the last 15 years. We've been heavily involved in offshore wind. There is a new hydrogen platform coming along. So we're heavily involved in that. And there's lots and lots of renewable energy, which, we're trying to get fingers in the pies there. We've always supported the local construction company, the local fabricators, marine environment, ports, UK-wide. So we do actually spread our net quite wide, and we are looking now at overseas distributors. So that's also adding to the portfolio.
You mentioned to me in an earlier conversation about sort of expanding through into sort of Europe. Is that as a result of Brexit or as a result of an opportunity? What would you say is the reason for a distributor? And this is a distributor for your own branded product, which we will come on to shortly. What was the reasoning behind sort of thinking Europe then?
It's to get your product out there, basically. We need a platform to sell overseas, the same as we need a platform to sell in the UK. So in order to do that, we're obviously looking at distributors in specific countries who can support the brand and sell into their local markets. It would be very difficult for us guys to do it from a UK base.
I've got a couple of clients who try that, but the clients who go distributor route are probably more successful more quickly. There is some inherent challenges with that. You've got to find the right partnership, for the right collaboration, got to build a lot around the trust of that. But how's it going into, where are you looking at, where's on your list and how's it looking?
We've got the Far East and Netherlands, France. They're on our shortlist at the present moment in time. It's looking good. COVID is obviously delaying things. When you would normally go on a flight and do an online a face-to-face meeting, obviously it's very difficult at the moment. So online arrangements and things are very slow. People are still I think people are still very concerned about the future and what the future holds, and especially overseas. So it's just a storm that we have to ride at the moment.
I think somebody who's going to invest in a distributor relationship with you probably wants to come and visit and have a look and meet you, and they can't do that, or they haven't got the confidence to do that, and there's travel restrictions. So 2021, hopefully you'll have something in place. Where do you reckon, if you were betting your first distributor overseas would be, then which of the markets do you reckon we might get into earlier?
Holland will probably be the first person to bring online, because I know they start their marketing campaign today. Right. So that's good news for us guys, and we have done a little bit of business with them so far. So that's all good.
Excellent.
We've hopefully got somebody coming on board in Ireland in the next 2 weeks too. So that's a positive move. The UAE, I think, will be a longer approach. It's probably going to be towards the end of the year when travel restrictions lift and things get a little bit, easier for us all. So they're probably going to be our first ones, I think. And that's certainly a big market. So interesting times.
Excellent. Well, some big ports in Holland, didn't they? You know, your Rotterdams of this world, and you know they do lift and shift stuff. So that's perfect for a Durham lifting product range, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. You mentioned earlier, Amanda, about the 25-year anniversary. I mean, it's probably sad to say that you won't get the same opportunity to celebrate as you might have done beforehand, but fingers crossed by the end of the year there's something you can do. I know you like a trip to the races with the team, and I know like to, you know, celebrate success, but you know, probably unlikely that you can celebrate 25 years. It's quite an achievement in itself, really. Let's do a bit of time travel, really. I'm going to ask you what differences you've seen in that time, in the way that business is being done, and maybe the requirements that your customers have of you. You know, has it got easier? Has it got worse? Is it just different? You know, what's your view of the last 25 years as a managing director of a, you know, heavy lifting engineering company?
I think that people definitely value quality more than they did a long time ago. Obviously, that's driven by the British standards and the health and safety rules. Um, I don't think we've got the face-to-face gentleman's agreement situation anymore. It's a tad upsetting. Really, if we could get back to that, you know, the morality, bring that back to business, that would be nice. Sometimes you can lose a client over £1 and you think, God, I've worked really hard to get this client and I've spent a lot of hours and a lot of investment, and you can just lose everything over £1. And it's like, really, guys, is this what we're all about nowadays? But no, we actually have clients who've been with us for 25 years, and you know, we have fantastic relationships with these people, and they also come to the races.
That's good. Well, fingers crossed the races reopens, and
Hopefully.
and you won't forget who your friends are, because I live around the corner from York Racecourse, so you know I'll be
Oh, I won't forget, Nick. Won't forget.
quite an easy invite. So, I mean, in terms of, you're prolific on social media, particularly on LinkedIn, and you and I have a sort of a bit of a challenge around, you know, who's got the most connections, who's got the most sort of comments and likes on the post, etc.
Yeah.
How has that changed for you? You know, in terms of building relationships, because you know you're B2B really, aren't you? So that's where that lives, LinkedIn. How's that worked for you?
I think it's fantastic. You can link with anybody that you want all over the world. You can have a conversation with people that, to be honest, you've never met before, and you probably never will meet. So it definitely broadens your horizons. I'm not quite sure that I'm happy about the male stalking that happens on LinkedIn. I've seen a few posts this weekend from female leads who are, you know, getting some really bad comments sent to them privately, which is not the best situation. But we're women and we put ourselves out there and we do, you know, what we need to do. We run businesses, strong businesses, we're strong-minded, and we just have to put it to one side, I think, and forget about it. But the positives are really good, actually. We've done a lot of business through LinkedIn. It gives us an opportunity to tell all of our clients what we're doing on a weekly basis. And that's really important to us. We have different sectors to the business, and some people haven't got a clue what the rest of the company does. They think all we do is sell shackles, sell slings. They don't understand that we do such a vast array of services. So yeah, for that, it's been absolutely fantastic.
Excellent. Going back to the inappropriate sort of comments and stuff, I mean, it's a bit like sort of racism in football and sexism in business. You know, you shouldn't, it should be nowhere near. It was never appropriate. It should never be anywhere near 2021. And it's, you know, it's one of those, should be a name and shame thing for me. If anyone's doing that, you should be well within your rights to, you know, expose them for what they are. But, you know, we'll move on from that. It's just hugely disappointing that still exists, isn't it, I guess? But, you know, people are unfortunately what they are. You mentioned about connecting with people, having conversation with people, you know, around the world, people that you might never meet. So we are definitely a global economy. But without wanting to discuss COVID in great detail, or even the dreaded sort of Brexit word, really, how has that globalisation, which has expanded over the last 25 years, how has that affected Durham Lifting? Is it positive, negative? You know, and what about the northern economy? What do you think globalisation's done to it?
No, I think it's definitely a positive. A lot of companies that I know are suddenly shipping out to Japan, China. The offshore wind has definitely opened new markets. And obviously the offshore wind isn't just going to stay in the UK. It's global. It's a global economy. So it's definitely going to be work that we're going to ship overseas. So a lot of local companies invested a lot of money and infrastructure into offshore wind. So they need to be able to ship their product, to the likes of Japan, Singapore, Poland, all of the places where up and coming farms are buoyant at the present moment in time. And I think it's really good for all of us.
So you might end up with a relationship in the UK or in the northeast or in the oil fields or in the sort of offshore renewables, but that could take you anywhere. Is that essentially, you're following the opportunity then, aren't you, doing that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And if you do produce a quality product and it's recognized across the offshore wind sector or the oil and gas sector, you will get orders from far afield. So, let's continue making quality products.
Excellent. How would you service that though? In terms of being a business in the northeast of England and it's heavy gear, you're shipping that out. Just talk me through the logistics, only from an interesting point of view. What's the logistics of getting a beam or a spreader beam or some kind of lifting hoist out to someone in Japan, then just shipping it, or what do you do?
Yeah, we're very lucky, obviously, because we're based in Teesside. We are surrounded by one of the largest ports in the UK. So, PD ports can ship almost anywhere in the world. So you can get most equipment out in a day or two, no problem at all.
It takes longer, doesn't it, to get it across on a ship than it would do.
Well,
Some of the stuff you're sending is heavier than the plane, so you couldn't send it on a plane, could you, I guess?
certainly with the new Brexit policy, it's causing some problems, that's for sure.
I can imagine. I've worked with you on and off for a number of years, and I think one of the things that strikes me is, despite being what you might call a traditional business, i.e., heavy engineering and heavy lifting, you're really quite innovative in terms of how you approach things, and innovation would be definitely in your business DNA. I do like the sort of strap line, we do it right, and it is about getting it right and getting it right first time. Innovation, it doesn't have to be in product development necessarily, but what do you think has been innovative that you've done that you're proud of? Where's the innovations over 25 years that you think, yeah, we did that, we took a risk, and look what's happened? Where would you say the innovation's been displayed, Amanda? Put you on the spot a bit.
Well, we've always invested back into the business. We've always invested heavily. The chairman of the business didn't really buy into a standard product. We've now created a standard product that we ship in the UK and overseas. We also hire the equipment, so we've invested heavily into our hire range. We've managed to up the testing parameters of our pool rolled 1926 test bed. So, we managed to develop the old lady, and she's now doing more work than she's probably ever done in a whole life. So that's good for her. We took a risk last year and brought in a fabrication team, which we're hoping to build a new building, in the next 6 months, which will house them, which will allow us to do even more work. And we've got a few innovations going through at the present moment in time with composite materials.
All right.
One of the things that we're looking at is working with composite materials and the load factors involved in that. So that's a very interesting concept. We don't know where that's going to take us yet, but it's definitely in its grassroots. So we're looking forward to that too. So yeah, there's a lot of things, a lot of changes and a lot of things going on the last 25 years, most definitely.
Good stuff, and I do like that. You can feel that in the DNA of the business, and I know that your husband Paul, he's sales director, but he's also an engineer. There's an argument whether he thinks he's a better engineer than a salesperson, but I think he's probably good at both, to be fair. But he's the guy who can just see a problem for a client, can't he, and scope out on the back of literally a fag packet and go, that's what that needs to look like. And that innovation in terms of problem solving is definitely in the DNA of the business, isn't it?
Yeah, I think one of the things that helps us hugely is everybody in the business is of a technical mind. So they can go to anybody's site and solve a lifting problem. They know exactly what to design and build. They know what it looks like. They might not obviously know the calculations, but they know what it looks like, what the parameters are, what the British standards say we can and can't do. So yeah, and all of the team, certainly 60-70% of the team can do that, which is a huge advocate for Durham Lifting.
Mm,
My people have been with me 25 plus years.
mm.
I can't ask for better loyalty. I think that's absolutely fabulous. We've worked hard to create a little team of engineers who are not engineers. Does that make any
Yeah.
sense?
Technical people who just are learning because of what they've done over 25 years and how they can solve problems. So I want to explore something which is it's slightly strange to those who don't know. Okay, you mentioned earlier about your branded product, and you've got a product range called Multisec. Okay, you can tell us what Multisec does in a minute, but it's a heavy lifting solution, but it's bright pink, right? So you designed something, Durham Lifting, Multisec, these beams that they are, the bright pink. Tell us about Multisec and what the hell made you choose bright pink beams for a construction or a lifting solution?
Well, I have to confess, I had nothing to do with the colour. It was two guys who came up with the colour, and I honestly have nothing to do with the colour. So I did like it when they proposed it to me, and I thought, yeah, there are other ranges of lifting equipment that are bright pink. So I was quite pleased that they picked something that stands out. Whenever we see one of our beams on a photograph now, it stands out so much. It's not like the old blue color or the old yellow color,
Yeah.
it's actually bright pink and I can see it from the motorway. So it's fantastic.
I guess from a sales point of view, if you see a beam that's yellow or blue that's not bright pink, it gives you an opportunity to go in and say, why are you not using a bright pink one, isn't it?
Exactly. I know the mine. Whenever I see one, I 100% know it's mine.
Tell us a little bit about what Multisec is then, because that was where you went into a branded product range, which was quite an innovation in its own right, creating something that you can then sort of take out to market. What's Multisec all about?
Yeah, so we've discussed this concept for a long, long time, over 25 years probably, which is sad, really. We designed and build spreader beams, crane systems, lifting beams, specialist frame lifting apparatus for the last 25 years. So in order to help our marketing team, what we decided was we needed a product range that would open doors. Yeah, so we put a range together that is standard in comparison to other products that are on the market. We knew that it would take off on the higher side, so we obviously knew that we could put these straight into our higher fleet and they would go in regularly. It also gives us a huge help on the marketing. That was the main focus for us. We can now open doors where before you would tell people what you do, you might make a pitch or whatever, but the minute you leave the room, there's nothing to leave behind. So they don't really particularly know what you do.
Yeah.
So we found that by having a specific brochure with a specific range and a proper marketing strategy to sell it in the way that we wanted to sell it and to work with distributors, it definitely is working for Durham Lifting.
Excellent. And bright pink doesn't do any harm at all.
Bright pink, no, there's a few clients who have not gone for pink, but that's their prerogative.
No problem. Okay. We mentioned innovation earlier. One of the things that you've been really good at in the past is exhibiting. So attending exhibitions and exhibiting exhibitions. Those routes are shut, certainly were shut in 2020. They don't look like they're opening anytime soon in 2021. How's that affected you in terms of that route to market, that network, and what are you doing to replace it? Because it's quite significant in your sector, isn't it? There's probably 3 or 4 big, there's one Aberdeen, there might be one in the NEC, there's one overseas, they're all missing. What are you doing?
Well, we're certainly using as many local platforms as possible. So we deal with the local NOF Energy, which they're helping us out on opening doors. We advertise quite regularly on our LinkedIn. We're speaking to clients. We're going back through all of our contacts, picking up the phone, sending an email, reminding them that we're still here, we're still working. Our regular clients, our day-to-day clients, they're open too. So they need our service no matter what, which is a good thing. That's managed to keep us very busy. We're just using the platforms that are out there that we think work for us, i.e. LinkedIn, little bit on Twitter, but not a huge amount.
Mm.
Website works. We're looking at the SEO, etc., to see, how we're attracting clients.
Mm.
It's challenging for them, most definitely, but it's working because we're seeing an increase in business in 2021. So
Good stuff. You would have probably used the exhibitions for a bit of touch base with existing, a bit of socializing, some prospecting, elements of all of that. So you're just doing it in different routes and different ways because you can't stop doing it. You can't not do it, can you?
No, you can't stop. That's one of the most important things. When you've got your name out there, you've got to keep your name out there. You must keep contacting your clients, keep talking to your clients, and just checking in really to see how everybody is, how their business has been affected, what plans they've got, how you can help. There's lots of different areas that you can remain active in marketing. Definitely.
Okay.
You miss people though.
Yeah, I mean, face to face, and the days of giving someone. I'm not sure a handshake's ever going to come back. By the way, we'll have to just go for a sort of a bear hug or something, won't we, or an elbow bump? But
Yeah.
you used to judge people on how strong on the handshake was. I'm not sure I can judge someone on how strong their elbow bump is. We'll see what that looks like when we get back to elbow bump you out the room. Oh, that's a strong hand. That's a strong elbow bump. So, you mentioned earlier about sort of the landscape in the north, particularly in the northeast, and you talked about sort of offshore and that kind of stuff. Have there been some casualties as a result of what's happened to the economy? Well, before COVID, it was probably argued that the region was underinvested in, but it seems to be now, like you say, shipbuilding, offshore, that might have changed a little bit. Have there been some casualties that are sad to see, when you look at the landscape, people that are no longer here, that you think, well, that's years of heritage and stuff?
Yeah, I think there's definitely been some casualties, especially at some of the local ports. Some businesses are still closed, haven't even reopened. We do a lot of work in the automotive sector, so that's just again finding its feet. It hasn't done a lot in the last 12 months. They're slowly bouncing back, but I think they've probably got another 6 months before they're anywhere near the production levels that we seen 2 years ago. I can't think of anybody in particular who's gone. There are a couple of large companies that have just gone off the pot of Blythe, the likes of Deep Ocean, who've been around for a long, long time. IHC have moved operations back to France. So yeah, these are big users of our equipment. So it is sad to see.
Okay, but I mean, hopefully, from what you said earlier, the order book's filling up. You're doing the right thing in terms of promotion and marketing, and some of the opportunities that are being created through, like you said, just different initiatives like offshore, and oil and gas will come back. I'm never particularly too sad for an oil and gas company who say the share price has dropped, because significantly they've got billions and billions in the bank, haven't they, usually? So the sort of, they don't get as much sort of love as other people do, because they're already minted, aren't they, to a certain extent? Okay. I'm going to ask you about a gender question. I'm going to qualify this. Okay, so I'm going to ask you about gender. I can't ignore it. You're a woman MD of a very male-dominated heavy engineering lifting company. Now, before I ask you the question, the audience start calling me a dinosaur. You wouldn't ask a man the same question. It's a conversation we've had a few times, so I want to explore it. And you've already touched on inappropriate, stuff that people threw at you on LinkedIn, etc. So I am interested from a gender point of view. How's it been? You're very strong, successful. You lead a successful family business. Done it for 25 years. It's very mucky. It's very, boiler suit and, dirty industry, etc. There's not many women in that sector. There's certainly not many women leading businesses. How's that been for you? And is it an advantage for you? How does it work? And what's been the positives and negatives of that 25 years for Amanda Gardiner?
If I can be brutally honest, I love what I do. And I've always, always loved what I do. I used to tell the girls that lifting equipment is sexy. So don't shy from it. Just get in the middle of it, get in the thick of it, and enjoy it. I absolutely love liaising with clients, getting them what they want when they want it. It gives me a real buzz. I honestly, I've never found it an issue. I've had a few a few instances over the years where guys have been pretty rude in terms of my knowledge level, and kind of surprised that a lady turns up instead of a man and kind of asks me, what the hell do you know?
I think they quickly find out, though, when they engage in conversation, that that's a really strange place to be, because you can probably sell them under a table in terms of knowledge and experience and capability and all that kind of thing. So first impressions versus reality are very different in that scenario, aren't they?
Yeah, they are very different, but you do, being a woman, you do have to know what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah, so you do have to study, you do have to make sure that you understand your products, you understand how they work, and know your limitations. If you don't know, I'm quite easily shy. I often go, this is not my sector, my engineers will do this for you. Yeah, that's their role, that's their job. My job is to come in, see you, talk to you, find out what you want, etc., etc. And I understand exactly where my parameters lie. I would never go and look at a really complicated lift or test, that because the engineers will have to do that work anyway. So, I just stick to your limitations. Be proud at the end of the day. I'm very proud of what I've achieved. It's been right from being a receptionist, I was always a strong character. I remember having, my first argument when I was probably about 19 with the lads on the shop floor, and them saying to my dad, who does she think she is? And I thought, you know nothing. You haven't seen it yet.
I'll be honest with you, Amanda, that's absolutely bugger all to do with gender, is it? It's to do with confidence and ability and
yeah,
just
it is, yeah. But I think the fact that you are a woman in that sector, you must have that confidence. You must feel proud of yourself. You must, not shy away. If you've got a confrontation, deal with it.
Yeah.
I can be the nicest person in the world most of the time. It just takes that one, the one person to slightly push me over the edge. 9 times out of 10, I'll turn around and walk away.
Yeah.
But, there might be that one occasion where they wish they'd never said anything.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. And I did want to ask it, given the just the heavy bias towards sort of the gender in that sector. So I've got a final question for you, and it's quite simply this: what's next for you and Durham Lifting, and what does 2021 hold?
Well, 2021 holds quite a lot. We're honestly 2 new buildings going up on the site. The fabrication team will be moving into a new location, which means we get the test house back, and the people who visit the test house will understand how important that is. There's definitely more investment into our hire fleet and into our product range. We're hoping that the composite arrangement comes together and we can shout about that and possibly go for an innovation award.
Is that going to take it to a different sector, the composite stuff then, Amanda, do you think? Is that where...
No, it's not a different sector, no. It's one of our products that we're looking at, basically manufacturing from a totally different material. And it's going to be a big ask. I think it's a huge change for the sector. It's a huge change in attitude. So watch this space and we'll just see what happens on that one.
Okay, and obviously distributors and Holland and perhaps UAE on the basis. So it sounds like exciting times. So the question I've got, I said that was the last question, but why do we not see enough of this? Why do we not get these positive stories in the business press? It's full of doom and gloom. They're quick to shout when a company's folded or decide to lay people off. Why are we not getting these great stories from a sector that is doing reasonably well, and certainly Durham Lifting are doing very well? Why is that not happening?
I think the press in the UK have always loved to shout about the things that are going wrong. It certainly, it reads a good story, doesn't it? And you can put a different spin on negative. But no, I think that we should focus more on the positive and the good things that the companies are doing, because not just our company, but there's certainly a lot of other companies who have worked hard through COVID and have come out of this really well. So let's shout from the rooftops.
Excellent. Okay, I'm going to share the screen for those who watch on YouTube, and it's basically to let people know where the podcast can be available. As ever, it's available on all the platforms that you'd expect: iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, etc. It's also hosted on the IMPACTUS group website. So again, all the links are on the notes for the pod. And last but not least is Amanda's contact details. If you have been inspired by Amanda, you work in a sector that needs specialist lifting and some heavy engineering support, then Amanda and her team could not sing their praises high enough. Amanda Gardiner, Amanda.Gardiner at durhamlifting.co.uk, phone number for the office, etc., etc., in the website. Have a look at some spreader beams, have a look at some pink Multisecs and see what they look like. Fantastic to meet you again on a podcast. Look forward to working with you again over 2021, and look forward to being invited to the races when they reopen, Amanda. So
Well, definitely.
thanks for being a great guest on the Impact Sessions podcast.
No problems. Thank you very much, Darren. It's lovely to see you.
And you, hon. See you later. Cheers.
Darren, bye.